Hello, everybody. Welcome back to part 2 of our interview with Joshua, who does book trailers. He's been working with Roxanne and Charles on their Enigma series, Enigma Airs, Magnolia Bluff series of books. And today we're talking about the Flight Enigma. I'm going to pull it up so everybody can see. This is the book that we are talking about. It comes out August 1st, so go ahead and grab your pre-order while you can. But Joshua did the book trailer for it, and you want to see that, you want to go to part 1 to see that. That's how we open up on part 1. But Joshua, tell us a little bit about your just whole production timeline on creating a book trailer, what the turnaround time is. How do you find and assemble those elements to bring the movie-esque to life? So tell us all about your secrets and your process.
Thank you again for having me. So each one's going to be a little different, but in general, I adhere to the principle of storytelling. In my opinion, there is always a constant path, starting with where this person is, something happens, and what is the mystery to unfold as to what could happen from there. In general, I try to turn around at least a first draft within 3 to 5 days, because at the end of the day, the way it's sort of structured in my business and how it works is there's a lot of trust with myself and the author. I view it as a collaboration, but I like to get things rolling just to have something to look at. And so sometimes if I'm not really sure on the trailer, just to get a conversation going, I'll send it 3 to 5 days out, assuming there's going to be feedback. But it's one of those things where every single time I try to give my point of view from a storytelling perspective. To capture exactly what they're intending, where the story came from, and craft it as best as I can. But ultimately, I'm not attached to any of it because I adhere to the author. This is their story. They know it obviously better than I ever will, but I will always try my best to just get something. At the end of the day, it only works if it's a two-way street. And Rox and Charles and I have done this for a bit now, so very nice.
So one of the things, Josh, that I personally have always been thrilled with when you produce one of the trailers is the music selections.
Yeah.
And they're always different. But, the very first one you did, I couldn't stop dancing every time I played it. And I still dance when I play the first one from Enigma Factor. But how did you come up with this particular piece of music? Because, again, it's spot on.
I do want to say something. That first trailer was such a learning experience for me because that was honestly the first time up until that point. I been in business for about a year or so maybe, and but I really turned to music after that trailer. So I think it's a perfect segue because I usually start with the images. The way I think a good story is told is if I can watch something on mute and get it. And so the first thing that I'm doing is seeing, look, if someone can't hear a word, can they get the story? And so I really think in images when that's the case. I think of images and how they're going to work together and flow and honor the story. The music comes in where it's sort of in a dance with the editing, actually. So I start with the images, and they could, the trailer could be 5 minutes long. I have no idea. But the images I'm not trimming down yet. But I have them in order of, I think, the way they should go. When I layer in the music, now I am sort of worshiping at the altar of that beat. And so if the beat is here, I'm cutting that image I layered here. I'm shifting this one down. And now I've honored that beat with the music. And I've also honored my idea of how the images should flow together. And so it really is kind of working in that vein of just taking separate elements, honoring both of them visually. Can I see the movie without music or words? Great. Music, can I hear the beat and where it should cut? Align those two. And then you go back and you start looking at, is it the story and all those things? But that's always my launching off point of how can I think in images and where can I layer the clips in to theme up with the music? And in terms of the music itself, the genre, it's really going to depend on the story. And that sometimes it can be, this one in particular, like I said, it really blends in a lot of different cinematic immediacy, realistic dialogue, balance between certain conflicts and the thriller aspect. And so I tried to find a piece in where if you see images of something, let's say emotionally conflicting versus something that's, suspenseful, the music has to fit with both of them now because I'm about to show all of it. And so it really is just trying to find that bottom baseline to support the images that you've crafted together before.
I like that technique where the music just builds and builds and builds, and you go and you stop it, and then I got a breath, and then you pick the tempo back up, and you build on through to the end. Nice technique, well choreographed.
Thank you. That's definitely a very good observation. You always want to end on the high note, and the high note is, what's this called? So I can go buy it. And so you really want to crescendo to that point and earn it. And to where we're almost left on a cliffhanger of like, I really need to see what's going to happen. So crescendoing is it's a very, very effective technique.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it certainly captured my imagination.
Yeah.
Well, I like the way that you said that you need to know what's going on and for it to still like resonate with you if it's on mute, right? Because I feel like in a book, to me personally, this may not make sense. It makes sense in my head. So we're all just going to nod that it makes sense. Okay. But me personally, exactly, you guys, when you're reading a book, it really is on mute and your imagination is what is playing it, right? Some people read with music. I don't read with music, but I'm just saying. So for your book trailer, for it to work both with sound and muted, I think is genius. Like, I think it's not something that generally people really think about. So I think it's genius. And the way that you talk about it, I can tell, one, you've like engineered it. Okay. I'm married to an engineer, so I'm lumping you into an engineer. You've engineered this art for you and you have it down, but you talk about it so passionately and it's effortless for you. And I think that is very telling in your book trailers that you've created. Is it's just something that you enjoy. Because when you said the turnaround time, sir, of 3 to 5 days, my mouth dropped because I'm just like, oh my gosh, you can turn around at least a rough concept or draft in 3 to 5 days. Well, I'm sitting here and I'm like, holy crap, it would take me 3 to 5 days to find the images, and then the music's got to sit just right, So kudos to you, sir, because that's big doings.
Yeah. So how much Red Bull do you have to consume to be able to get that done in 3 to 5 days?
Yeah, no Red Bull Nespresso machine, absolutely. But I thank you, Aimee, for that, and I do want to say it's as someone who I naturally am always thinking, what if, and some things that are good for me are deadlines, and I like certain restrictions to create within, and so knowing that I don't have to turn it around in 3 to 5 days, but I do that for obviously the author and our communication, but also so I can send something in 3 to 5 days. And so, working within that frame, but also just the overall structure. One thing I was thinking about when you were talking about the layering of the visuals and watching it on mute is a book trailer. At least the way I'm doing it, it can be done otherwise, but there's no dialogue. I'm not filming actors on a set speaking lines, and so I think watching it on mute is very important. In that case of like I can't even I've done a couple voiceovers for them in the past, but to me this is very it does leave a lot of room for the imagination to grow. So I do like this structure a lot, and seems to always meet me where I'm at artistically. Every time they reach out, I'm in a space of exploring something. And I like to use this as an opportunity to kind of try that within their world, and just grow from it on both sides. So,
yeah, no, I love it. I think not having a voiceover sometimes adds to the suspense and the dramatic effect of it, right? And then it makes because it always says, and it's just how it goes, right? But it's always like you want to build up to like the oh shit moment, and then you're just like, oh my gosh, I need to know what happened after this moment, right? And I feel like your trailers do that. Like it does it beautifully. Like that is not the best way to word it, but I wouldn't be me if I didn't word it that way. But it's such a beautiful way that you do it. And so I think it's just amazingly done for sure. But Josh, you have to hold on, man. Okay. Because we're going to do a part 3 of how you can get in touch with Josh, what his process looks like, how you can reach him if you're interested in having book trailers done by him. And you have two wonderful reviewers here that are going to talk about it. So make sure you come back for part 3. But until then, bye everybody for now.